Yes, I will. But if you
don't want to.
3, 2, 1.
So you don't hear the music.
It's all good. Just tell me when to talk.
Good morning, good morning.
Hey, hey.
What's going on, guys? We're in here today with the legendary actor Clifton Powell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're excited about seeing you in here today, sir.
Yeah,
How you doing this morning?
The Atlantic traffic. I was supposed to be here last week. I've been stuck in traffic for a week.
You know how that goes.
Man.
Oh my God, last night I was just looking at all the different movies you were in, like you've been in over the course of, over the last, 20, how many years has it been?
You know, I joined SAG in 1979.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And people talk about all the movies I've been in, all the work I've done, and some of the C-list, B-list, A-list stuff that I've done. But I want to be a football player, so.
Oh, wow.
The advent of being a well-known actor, and and I just think black people. I think people of color, Latin, Asian, the good white folks out there,
Right.
the young kids who kind of made me a household name,
Mm-hmm.
But I never really wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a football player, and I got into it.
Really?
Sometimes
I was gonna ask, how'd you get started?
the gods have something different planned for
Exactly.
me. After I didn't play football, I was like a neighborhood legend.
Right.
And I played 1 year in high school, and then I ended up transferring because I was getting in trouble with the white guys all the time. Hanging out, getting in trouble, giving people the finger, and all crazy stuff. Because I was like a nut case in school.
Come on now.
So, and I wasn't giving them the finger. We just giving other people the finger.
Right.
And I went to all boys Catholic school, so I was like, I better get out of there. So I saw a play. I transferred to another school, saw a play. And I'm from the deep inner city of DC, in a rough neighborhood.
Okay.
And, I really didn't have any ambition other than playing football.
Right.
A lot of people out there don't remember the Washington Redskins. They had a wide receiver running back named Charlie Taylor.
Okay.
So I wanted to be Charlie Taylor.
Right.
Were you good in football?
I was great in football in the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
And then, when I got to high school, the guys were I was so little, but I was fast, but I didn't really catch on, so.
Right.
Gotcha.
When I saw a play, I was like, what was that? One of my buddies said, I was a player. I said, I might do some of that. I was just fooling around, did the
Right.
play. And then one of my guys went to this workshop program, and I really literally just rode up there to just hang out with him. And they kept asking me to come in to audition. And I was like, dude, I ain't trying to be no actor. I'm going away from here with that.
Right.
So finally, God bless his soul, he became one of my angels and one of my mentors, Kenneth Doherty.
Okay.
At Workshop for Careers in the Arts, and a lot of my teachers have passed on, but he came out like 3 times. He said, listen, we need more guys in there. So I just went in and did some little flimsy or, little improv, and they called me and put me in the program. I was like, okay, well, I ain't got nothing else to do. Because after football, since I didn't make it as a football player, I was going to be a bus driver, because bus drivers during my day made $6.50 an hour. So I was like, man, that's more than I was making at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Because at Kentucky Fried Chicken, I was making $125 an hour.
What?
Wow. Okay, so $6.50. That's
Was that legal to pay somebody
That was back in the 70s, that's a lot of money.
$125? Dang.
So I said, I'm a bus driver. Sound like I could be a millionaire in like 100 years, So that really literally was my ambition, I really picked bus driver only because they paid $6.50 an hour.
Right.
So I got into the program and I was horrid. I don't know what's past bad. I was just really horrid.
Right.
And because I really didn't want to be, it's not that I didn't want to be there, I didn't have anything else to do,
Right.
So I just kind of hung around, and Debbie Allen was my dance teacher, so, I came out of the hood. So I wouldn't wear my leotards and tights. I would go to dance class with like dress pants.
Dress
I can't
pants.
dance.
Okay.
I went to dance, but you had to take dance. I went
Right.
to dance class with dress pants, hard shoes, and a wife beater, and Debbie would put me out of class every day. So, my presence, because I was from the hood, my presence was kind of I imagine, and I wasn't trying to do it purposely, kind of intimidating.
Right.
And so one of my mentors and my angels, Charles Brown, who's passed on,
Yeah.
he brought me into the room and he said, "Listen, man, they want to put you out of the program." And I said, like, what's the problem, man? He said, "Man, you're scaring everybody in here." I'm like, "Man, I ain't trying to scare all these people. They need to man up." You know what I'm saying? So, you know, he just said to me, he said, "Listen, man, I told them I don't want you out of the program, but you're going to stay with me all day, and you're going to take my classes, and you're not going to change classes, and I need you to put your leotards and tights on." I was like, "Dude, I'm not finna wear that." So
Right.
he really convinced me to, you know, to conform a little bit, not because I was trying to be rebellious, but just, it was just out of my league of understanding coming out of the hood, you know?
Yeah.
So then I got
Yeah,
a
you
teacher.
get whooped if you wearing leotards and tights in the
You
hood.
come out looking like Peter Pan. Somebody might beat you up, kidnap you, sell you into sex trafficking.
Anything. Oh my
Let's
God.
just make it clear, I'm not making fun about sex trafficking, but I'm saying, if you grow up in the hood and you come out with leotards and tights,
Looking like
You're going to lose your
Peter Pan.
credentials.
and some ballet shoes, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah,
So, you know,
definitely.
I
Definitely.
listened to Charlie, and then a teacher came in named Glenda Dickerson, God bless and God rest her soul, who really became one of my biggest supporters and encouraged me. And she taught me the art of acting, and I stayed with the program, and that's how I got started.
That's
And,
amazing.
You know, so when people say I've done so many movies, I just remember the days, you know, the 20 years of unemployment, you know.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Okay.
you know, most of us, back in the day, Sam and Denzel and, you know, Angela Bassett, all of us started in New York, and I really just wanted to, once I fell in love with theater, I wanted to be a theater actor.
Right.
And not really thought about California and Hollywood and anything like that. So I really just did it because I loved it. And then, you know, New York kind of dried up and we couldn't make a living, so we all went out west. And, you know, I did 10 years in New York where I was struggling. I was very poor and living in a rooming house and homeless. But I just kept going. And then I got to L.A. 10 years later and I had to start all over again.
Wow.
So then I started, you know, doing clerical work. I used to sell people's old clothes at the swap meet. I worked as a counselor. I worked as a back waiter in a restaurant. I did clerical work. I did telephone sales. And then I just stayed with it and I caught on, you know.
And that was one of the things I was thinking about when we were setting up the show, and I was like, I think people need to hear that part of being an actor because they see you now and they see the roles that you've played throughout the years, and they go, "Oh, that's great." And I'm like, but they don't know the story.
Glamour.
They don't know what you were doing before you got to be Clifton Powell. you know.
I'm really, you know, I was in a quick trip the other day. I said, "Clifton Powell, huh?" I said, "I guess I am." I was raised to be humble and to just do the work. And my early managers, you know, my managers used to always tell me in Hollywood, she said, "Just do the work. Don't focus on being famous.
Right.
Don't get a big head, you know, but just do the work." And then she said, "Do you want to make a lot of money?" I was like, "No, not really. I just want to act." She's like, "Well, I want to make a lot of money." So, you know, I think if you know, for the young people out there, you know, first you have to have your talent assessed. And then you need to get training, you know. My training is very, very extensive, you know, in improvisational theater, guerrilla theater, psychoanalytic theater.
Wow, okay.
You know, we worked in the prisons, we worked in juvenile detention centers. I was a part of a creative arts team at NYU where we went in with workshop conflict resolution type workshops that we did in the inner cities. And then my theater training is very extensive. I went to Emerson College and I just became a student, and while everybody else was hanging out, partying in college and getting high and hanging out, I was really studying. And I just became a student of the game, and I think that helped me, you know, because
student of the game. I love it.
When I got to New York, Sam and Denzel and all those guys were in front of me, and I knew I had to really just be focused. So I never did the drugs, and I never, you know, I partied a little bit, but I was really, really focused.
Right.
You know, so that's what helped me.
Let me ask you this. I have a question. Out of all the different roles you played and all the different ones, I want to know, do you have a favorite?
Well, I
Because
think.
I'm going to tell you, I love when you turned that tape in on
Minister
Kane,
Society.
on Kane and on
You know,
Lorenz Tate. Oh, I loved it.
I think that if people, we don't really have the time to go into the background of how I got all of those roles.
But what's
You
your
know,
favorite?
My favorite role, honestly, is playing Dr. King in this movie I did called Selma, Lord Selma.
Okay.
Because Dr. King is probably, to me, the most iconic figure in the history of this country to me.
Yeah.
In terms of love and what he stood for and how he tried to bring this country together. And you know, when they called me and said I was auditioning for Dr. King, I was like, man, you gotta be kidding me. And when I got in, you know, Reuben Cannon, who cast me in Why Do Fools Fall in Love and Buffalo Soldiers and Women Thou Art Loosed, he said, Cliff, I don't know how your picture got in here. You play a lot of tough guys, don't you? I said, well, you know, I'm an actor. I'm trying to get the next role. So he said, well, we have a star in mind for Dr. King. So I said, well, just let me just try it, you know? And he said, well, you know, when you get in with the producers, I'm just going to tell you, they have a, you know, maybe you can read for another character. So when I got in with the producers, they hadn't seen any of my work. They were African-American producers, but they missed me on Rock and some of the other things, Menace Society and Dead Presidents that I'd done. So just so the young people understand, when I got the call, I stayed up all night and watched Eyes on the Prize. And I studied Dr. King's voice intonations.
The documentary, yeah.
I watched how he moved his body. I watched Dr. King behind the scenes. You know, he was a jokester. He smoked cigarettes sometimes. He was a really, a lot of Dr. King we see in his speeches.
He was a cool dude.
He was
People
a cool
don't know
dude.
that.
Yeah, you know, so that role to me was most iconic. You know, most memorable for me. And then of course Ray and Dead Presidents and Menace. All of those are right at the top. But
do you like playing a more serious role or kind of like a silly role more? Which one do you like the most?
You know,
because people brought up Pinky when we, you know, this is called what it is. When we
People
put it
love
out there, people like
Pinky,
you know,
different
and
things.
I think it's part of the.
You're known for so many different movies.
The franchise is, I mean, Friday's a franchise now, and
you know,
so,
just like and people, you know, I mean, I've just seen you in everything. So do you like more serious roles, or do you like?
I think he likes work. He might like work.
I think, you know, when you're a black actor, I don't know. Unless you Denzel, I think you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do next and pay your bills.
Right.
You know, the way I'm trained in the Stanislavski system, or the method acting, as we call it, you know, De Niro, Pacino, Denzel, Sam, Taraji, Meryl Streep, we all train the same way. And we're trained to attack characters just from the reality and the real base of a character. So I don't really necessarily think about whether he's a good character or a bad character. I get, people stop me. I mean, somebody went on my Instagram page the other day and said, all you ever do is play mean, dark characters that kill people all the time. And I'm reluctant often to respond to that, but I sent her a long text and I said, you should do your research and pull up my, you know, my list of work. And I played doctors, lawyers, I played pastors, and I said I just played a pastor 2 weeks ago on Black Lightning. You know, so what happens with our folks is that oftentimes we just believe everything we hear, and we don't do the reading and don't do the research. And I say, I'm a character actor, and if I read something and it sounds cool, I might do it, you know? Next Friday came about because Kim Harton, who's the casting director, cast me in a bunch of stuff, suggested that they had somebody else in mind for Pinky, and she said, why don't y'all bring in Cliff? And I'd met Ice Cube call me to do the Players Club. So, you know, Pinky just came out of the blue, and I went in for a meeting, and then I played Pinky, you know. And honestly, that first day working with Ice Cube, I wasn't getting it. Like it was just me and Ice Cube in a record shop. And I was like, I did it like 7 times, just me and him.
Oh, wow.
And he, you know, Ice Cube doesn't talk much. He's just staring at me, and I'm staring at him. I'm sure I'm staring at him thinking, I got rent, I got a wife, I got kids, I got car payment. I'm like, dude, you know, what do you need? So I did it 2 more times, and it wasn't catching on. And then I said to Cube, I said, take the gun and maybe show me what you're talking about. Then I did a movie called The Break, so I took the gun back, and I started jumping around and saying the voice, and that's how I caught on. But it wasn't automatic. It's my training and my improvisational skills that allowed me to put the physicality on that character. But I like playing characters. I mean, that character in All Eyes on Me was really interesting character. Chauncey in Menace, you know, I just rolled around the hood and tried to find
somebody just put in the chat room about that Chauncey
and Cuddy and Dead Presidents, I was the last choice.
Love Cuddy.
And I went in to read for Cowboy and Spider, and I got the script for Dead Presidents the night before, and I called my manager and I said, who's playing this guy Cuddy? She says, no, they have a big star in mind for him. I said, well, that's the guy I think I want to play. So I didn't really get that script and go, oh, he's a tough guy. I just said he seemed like an interesting character. So
Gotcha.
I was poor as hell, and it was 99 degrees outside. I stopped at the thrift store. I had a wool suit on. I almost exploded before I got to the audition. And I had a cowboy hat, a patch to play Spider, a cowboy hat for cowboy, and I stopped and got a Dob hat at this thrift store.
Wow.
With my little wool suit, and I'm sweating like a baby. And I asked one of the Hughes brothers if I could read for Cuddy. And he said, well, we got somebody in mind for Cuddy. And so what I did that night was I memorized the scene that you saw.
Right, yeah.
And I stayed up all night again and studied. So when my early days in LA, I didn't go in and read from the paper. I did a performance in the room. So
Gotcha.
I memorized everything, even still. And so I think part of my career and the longevity and the variety is preparation meeting opportunity. So when I did Cuddy, I did Cuddy just like you saw it.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and said, wow, okay.
You are Cuddy.
Ooh,
We better move that big actor off
we
this
finna make you Cuddy. And I can go get me another car, you know what I'm saying? So that's, I mean, really how I start coming up. And then,
Is it
one
hard
thing-
to jump in and out of character?
not really, but I'm gonna address one thing that I get a lot of flack for. A lot of people have criticized me for doing a lot of B and C-list movies. And what you all have to understand is that when you become well-known in Hollywood, you're almost isolated from your people. Not consciously, but you know, on the next levels up, on my level and above, it's almost no African Americans in that room. You know,
Right.
when you go to the award shows, I mean, there's more diversity now, but back in my day, there weren't many African Americans in that room.
Right.
When you go in an audition, it's all you know, either white men or white women, and maybe one black person. So I had to really be prepared, and because of that, as I did Dead Presidents and Menace and Rush Hour and all those movies that took me,
Rush Hour,
you know,
never put that
to a
list
different level,
Mhm.
I kept one foot in the hood, you know. So
Yeah.
I hired a guy named Keith Neal, who was my partner, who's still my partner, and he's one of the producers on Swirl, my Swirl family, Eric Thomas-Sunas, and James and Keith Neal, to look for independent projects. So that's how I keep one foot connected to Hollywood and one foot connected to the streets, because a lot of times young filmmakers can't get their films done unless they have at least one or two names that can help them get
Exactly.
distribution.
Right.
So I caught a lot of flack for doing a lot of little hood movies. All you do is little hood movies.
No.
So you know, it's
Love
real
it.
difficult, you know, sometimes, because if you get to the next level and you don't connect, then you're a sellout. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
you know, y'all give me a break out there.
Yeah.
I'm from the hood. I keep one foot in the
Right.
hood, and I'm always gonna keep one foot in the hood.
Now, you know, the funny thing was, like, I remember going to go see Rush Hour, like, years ago, and I saw it at Magic Johnson Theater right here in Atlanta. Remember back down on Southwest. And when you appeared in that movie, I was like, I don't think there's anybody else that could pull off a red suit all the way down like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you had that thing so called, like, who can do
Who
that?
else
Who else could pull that?
off?
And you were like, you
I'm
had
black as the night.
such control in that scene,
Yeah.
where it was like, and you're there with Jackie Chan, you got Chris Tucker, you hold, and but you had such a presence. You jump off the screen, and that's the thing I'm noticing all of your characters from Menace, so
Just the
all the way down the line.
everything.
You may not be throughout the entire movie,
Mm-hmm.
but you're there.
You
Like
have
when
a
you're on the
presence.
screen, you're there. Like you.
It's you know what it is, and you asked me a question, I'm gonna answer it. It's just all training. So when I teach and when I do seminars, I tell the young people, get your training, because once you're trained, and
I didn't know you teach. That's
yeah,
great.
I teach, and I'm still trying to find my way down here in Atlanta, because some of the young people down here want to be famous as opposed to putting in the work to
Right.
really
That's
train,
Atlanta.
you know. And we're not going to talk about everybody in Atlanta, but I run into some people here, some young actors who just don't want to, you know, can't be on time for class, you know, don't want to put the work in. And when you see me, I put the work in. When you
Right.
see Denzel, he put the work in. When you
Clearly.
see Sam. So when you are trained in the Stanislavski system, you're trained to attack every character. So for instance, a character like Pinky, I didn't see Pinky as a funny guy. I just saw Pinky as a regular guy who had some whatever issues, trying to be a businessman. Pinky wasn't a pimp. So that scene when he said, you fired too, wrote you fired. And then he pulled his gun and he said, man, don't kill me, man. I got a girlfriend, I got a wife on the side. You can play that character when you fake like you're crying. But if you train like I'm trained, you have to really, really cry.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
what made Pinky kind of interesting is you got this seemingly tough guy with pink on,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you break down. And so I made a conscious decision to really cry.
Right.
So in the Stanislavski system, the way you attack your work is always do the truth and find the through line of the character, and then you can morph into any kind of character that you want to. You know, if you saw me on Black Lightning, I had a gray beard.
Right.
I just did this thing in D.C. Because a lot of my friends are producers, and they call me and say, Cliff, listen, man, we got 10,000, we need you for a day. I'm like, tell me where I got to be at. Because
Right.
I'm for hire. I'm an actor, you know.
Right,
So,
right.
But I also had a 24-year relationship with the producer, who's one of my boys, who started when we back in the streets just doing calendars. You know, so I'm playing this old guy in a wheelchair with a patch on my eye and a whole different look. You know, I read for something the other day where I'm playing a 500-pound man.
Wow.
You know, so all you do when you get a script is you try to find a through line of the truth, and then you build on it and put the physical on it, and that's how you break down a character.
Gotcha. Well, I know now you're on Saints and Sinners.
Yes.
And when I posted it on social media, everybody was like, oh my God, I love the show. And it went on and on about your character. And I'm
You better
sure.
hurry up, I'm finna be drunk. We drinking mimosas in here. I'm a closet alcoholic.
We have mimosas on the show every day. Just orange juice.
I don't need no orange juice.
Okay. So with Saints and Sinners, that it was like everybody just chimed in and they love your character on that. For new people who haven't seen the show, because you're gonna pick a whole bunch of people up from today too. So for new people who haven't seen it, can you tell them a little bit about the show or your character, or is there anything you want to say about it?
Well, the first thing is that for the new people out there who haven't seen the show, download the Brown Sugar app.
Okay.
And pull up Saints and Sinners Season 1 and pull up Saints and Sinners Season 2 and get caught up on Season 3. So I'm not going to tell you what the show is all about. I'll say it's an offshoot of, I did a movie with Russ Park called The Under Shepherd.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen The Under Shepherd, it's an incredible movie.
I haven't
And
seen it. I need to.
My friend Isaiah Washington plays the lead. You should see it. It's
Oh,
really
yeah, Isaiah.
a very disturbingly interesting movie.
Gotcha.
He plays this pastor. And so in The Under Shepherd, I played a pastor who actually couldn't preach, but thought he could preach. And it was centered around the church and the neighborhood around the church, but it really was centered in the church. So when Saints and Sinners came about, they kind of opened it up and decided that Rex Fisher would be kind of like that guy who was friends with the pastor, but he was out in the streets because, Eric and those guys love Cuddy.
We love Rex.
Right.
So Rex is pretty much patterned after Cuddy. And the show is really about stuff that goes on in the church and goes on outside the church in the community. And it's
Keep it
really,
real.
There's some good stuff in the church and
Yeah.
some bad stuff in the church.
Oh,
and
yes,
there's
we
some
know.
good folks outside of the church and some bad folks outside of the church. And if you see Season 1, you know that Rex and the pastor were best friends. And, he was helping pastor financially keep the church afloat.
Right.
And then you just really have to watch it from Season 1 because I'm in the show and I read the scripts every week. And I gotta tell you, I sat Sunday with my popcorn and my red wine, and I'm looking at it like y'all looking at it like who gonna do something next?
What's gonna happen next?
And I know what's gonna happen next. It's just a good show and it is well directed
And it's on Bounce TV.
And it's on Bounce.
What day can everybody find it?
Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
Yeah, and it's a great cast and great producers, Swirl and Bounce and.
I know you're on your way to go there right when you leave
Yeah,
here.
but it's just a fun show and we all get along well and we just come to do a work, and have a good time and give some interesting characters out there to see.
Gotcha.
Well, I will say this. I dabbled a little bit a few years ago. I did, a couple of films, some, parts here
I'm
and
about
there.
to try to get it.
No, I'm not trying to get no work.
I'm a male stripper, so I got a couple
I'm not
more
trying to get
months.
no work.
I'm
Well,
just playing.
I said that to set up this, that I do respect people that because it's a lot of work. And so, and after that experience of going on auditions and going to classes and things like that, you understand. So when people say, "Oh, he's overpaid," no actor is ever overpaid. If you're putting in the work to truly do the craft, you're not overpaid. You might be underpaid. And so when people say, "Oh, Will Smith make $20 million," he earns that $20 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if you earn 10, if you make 500, you earn it because you're on set all day long and it's and you're there. You have to do the scene the same way 4 or 5 times in a row.
I was at the
Different
Tupac
camera
movie.
angles.
I
A
was
lot of
in
work.
the
A
Tupac
lot of
movie
work.
in the oh God, what scene was it? It was at the concert and here in Atlanta, and we were on set for 16 hours, and I wasn't even really like, I just had to keep dancing, and I was like,
Time to
I'm
dance again.
tired.
Seeing you had to dance again.
I
You
was
had to do
like,
it.
I mean, we were there for 16 hours.
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know, I think
I never saw my face.
But people don't realize that. They're like, oh no, they just act. I was like, no, it's not a
No.
one take.
you know, it's really kind of weird because when I talk about the journey that I've been on and how I started and all the things that I've been through, it's really, you know, just all the work of the gods to me.
Right.
I just never ever saw any of this. You know, I was just a little black kid out the hood. And
Want to play football.
wanted to play football. And,
Want to make that
And be a
650.
be a bus driver at
And make that
650.
650. You want to leave that 125 salary alone. That's what you were
But I
trying to
think
do.
what I want the young people to get from this conversation is that if you have a dream, and if I'm just telling you, if I can make it, I think anybody, if you put the time in. My mother died tragically when I was 4.
Wow.
My father was a functioning alcoholic. I was raising myself at 7 because my babysitter had rats in her house.
Wow.
And I got 580 on my SATs. They give you 200 for your name back in the day.
They did.
And I got a full scholarship to college. I had to take up a collection to send me to college.
Mm.
And I was the worst actor in my program. And my father always told me, if you just have faith the size of a mustard seed.
Amen.
So in those early years, I really was just moving on faith and being led by the spirits. So I kind of had so many angels, and I was almost like floating. And because I don't know how it happened.
Right.
And then you get in it and you stay in it and you be consistent. And for the young people that don't understand how much work goes into this, it's long hours. As you know, I lived in Hollywood for 25 years. I got caught up in the pomp and ceremony of being well known and making a lot of money, and it damn near destroyed me, destroyed my kids and my family.
Right.
You know, your friends who you think are going to be your best friends in this journey turn against you or jealous.
Exactly.
You have relatives that don't like you, fans that hate you, people that talk about you and don't tell the whole side of the story. It is a lot to handle. It can ruin your relationships. The divorce rate in Hollywood is 90%.
Yeah.
You know, and I got married too young, and I damn near ruined everything. And it's a big price to pay to get to the next level and keep your sanity and, you know, keep your focus. And you gotta have some kind of spiritual discipline to get through it. So it looks glamorous and it's fun, and you go to the big shows and you're hanging out with the stars, but you gotta be able to sit your butt home and study and read, because once the heat wears off your name, like when I go in the room, I went in for something last week, the white director had no idea who I was.
Right.
I was sitting out in the room with everybody else. And you got to be able to go in that room. I went in for a piece that John Singleton's doing called Snowfall. I had to go in the room after self-taping and sit in that hot seat and convince all those white guys in there that I was the guy for the role, you know?
Right.
And so you got to be trained. You got to put the time in. You got to, I told a young lady the other day, I said, you got to stop smoking weed. You got to stop partying.
Say it.
You got to stop running around with all these guys.
All right.
And sit your ass down and get your work done.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it and you look up 10 years from now and you're still in the same place, you have nobody to point a finger at but yourself. So when you see me, I put the work in. And I think that, you know, God has blessed me for the work that I've done. And I don't put anything more than that on it. My teachers taught me how to grind.
Thank you so much, Clifton Powell. I mean, thank you so much for coming in and speaking with us. I mean, your words are powerful.
Yes.
And we're very
And they could
honored.
be applicable to any career, not just acting, but they could be
We're-
applicable to anything that you're trying to do in life, whether you're starting a business, whether you're working.
We
You
are
gotta be
very
grounded.
honored to
You gotta
have
be
you
grounded.
come in today. Now you got to get on and go on to Bounce TV
Yeah,
and
yeah.
get ready for your
This
next
is
and
fun.
go
You know,
and do some
we're gonna do it
filming.
again. I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spend the night in the station, so I don't have to fight the traffic to get here.
So we can.
Well, definitely. I'm sure
Yes.
they got a room in the back. We'll put them on the couch.
Right.
But you know, just want to say something to Atlanta. Everybody down here has just been so wonderful. It's so wonderful to see, you know, African Americans owning stuff down here, and I stop at the grocery store, the Quick Trip, or just wherever I am, people give me so much love. So I thank you all. Continue to watch the show. I'm going to be teaching classes, and I'm also going to be doing a seminar called Behind the Lens, where I talk about my life as an inspiration to others, and then I'm gonna answer. So it's for mothers, fathers who have kids in the business, adults who want to work, writers, or if you're 45 and you think you got a script, I'm gonna break the whole scope of the business down from the bottom all the way to the
And
top.
will you forward that
Yes,
information
we'll make sure
to
we
us
put
so
that out
we
to
can
you.
We'll
blast
come back
it?
on and talk about it.
We'll
social
bring him
media,
back
talk
on.
about
We'll
it.
definitely have him back
We'll
on.
be in our room.
Yes.
All righty, well, thank
All
you
right.
so
Thank
much.
you all.
And
Thank you so much. So
we
excited.
appreciate having this
So excited.
legend on the show.
Yes, legendary actor
Thank
Clifton
you.
Powell. Thank you all.
See you
Thank
guys
you.
tomorrow.
Peace.
Okay.
So now y'all tape radio. I mean, you play it back too.
Pre-recorded it.
We pre-recorded.
But like it's
pre-recorded.
visual too, though.
Well, we're on Facebook
Well,
Live.
the station, we're Facebook Live right now.
So we got
Okay.
people like they're in the chat room and they were
They're talking-
talking
yeah,
about
we're-
you, and they said it was an excellent interview. So we get immediate feedback from our Facebook Live folks, and then we play it on the air, and then it goes on the air. So
Okay,
it's
so
really,
in a couple of months, once I put my class together,
Mhm.
and then I'm gonna do these seminars, I'm gonna come back and we'll do, and I'll stay in the city, because usually when I have early appointments, I just stay in the city.
Yeah,
Because
that
it's
makes
just
sense.
horrible. I would
Yeah.
have to leave my house at 7 to be here at 10.
Yes.
Oh,
It's just
wow.
crazy.
It's tough.
Well, let's go
but-
ahead and get a picture and.
When I do Saints and Sinners, I stay in the city, because we're gonna have an early call. It's
That
just
makes
so
sense.
crazy.
That makes
Guys,
sense.
thank you for tuning in Facebook Live too,
Hey,
and
What
we're
can
gonna
we say?
get
Clifton Powell.
a legendary actor Clifton
He's
Powell.
drinking mimosas
And
with us.
listen,
I mean, what
drinking
can we learn?
mimosas
He's drinking
with-
mimosas
yes.
with us. We're drinking mimosas
our-
with Clifton Powell.
I'm gonna go to bounce drunk.
This is-
No,
don't blame us.
Who sent you?
Don't blame
Shut up.
us for that one. Don't blame us
Moments
for
are
that one.
always better when they're mimosa moments.
Yeah. it's all
we
good.
always have mimosa moments here, so we will see
Alrighty,
y'all.
guys.
We'll be back on Monday. This is going to air tomorrow on the air, so we recording tomorrow. But we'll be back on Monday, and we may play this again on Monday. And we just clip the power twice. We go back to back.
Hey, I appreciate y'all out there.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good time. We'll see y'all next week.
That was really fun.